We're recording. And I'm grabbing the link. And here we are. Okay, so what were you saying about the start of the streams?
I was gonna say yeah, you need to come up with something to talk about at the
I
beginning of the
desperately need
stream
to.
or whatever. But I was gonna talk about I watched Seeing Red last night, or Turning Red. My bad. I'm stupid. It was pretty good.
Cool.
It was about
I'm probably gonna watch it.
intergenerational trauma again.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it since you had brought it up the other day. But
Um, I thought it was good. I thought it was really funny, but I was also high, so like I have no idea how accurate that was.
right. All right. So um, I've actually got stuff set up properly now. And is anyone in the chat? Can anyone hear this? Um, who knows?
Who knows? It's
I mean,
fine.
it says there's 3 people in here. Somehow the
Somehow.
stream has returned. Yeah, I'm like Palpatine. Well, at least my stream is. Cool. Quinn's here. All right, I think we'll start. So Victoria's here again because it's the end of arc. Oh, it sounds robotic. Does anybody else hear us as robots? And Victoria, can you talk?
I can talk too.
Okay. Well, unless anybody else has it, it may be just a David problem. So, um, okay. Uh, yes, Victoria, you're here. Hello.
I'm here. Hi. I
Um,
don't I don't have shit to say.
okay. Well, that's fine. I think we're just gonna jump right into it. This week we're doing the chapter 2.x, and I will refrain from calling Vic Victoria since the character in this chapter is Victoria. So,
Mhm.
henceforth we will be referring to the character. So this is the second interlude. It's our new point of view again. So we're not gonna just like go back to Danny. We actually almost never revisit a character. Very few exceptions to that. And it's the first character we're meeting that Taylor doesn't know at all. Um, and she's kind of like an opposite to Taylor in a lot of ways. She fits the expectations of like a heroic power set, and has a very overtly powerful set of powers as well. Um, M says that she wanted another Danny chapter. What do you think
Yeah.
about this, Victoria? Because we haven't actually talked about what I had written here previously, I think.
Um I think I'm echoing through your mic first, but I'll keep
Oh,
talking.
oh crap. You know what? That's my bad. I didn't plug in the headphones after the
Oh,
audiobook listen.
that's
Well,
fine.
here we go. I think it should be fine from here on. Uh, cool. Mm-hmm. They're presented really boring here, but once you actually like understand more about how they work, like even just in the next arc when we see her again, um, there's just like a lot of powers. There's more to it. I think he was trying to like slow roll the reveal of her powers, to be honest, but it's kind of just makes it a little weird for this chapter. Oh, cannot hear Victoria. Crap. Okay, Victoria. We might have to take 3 of this, everybody. I'm sorry. Um, well, I think that it screwed up the streaming stuff. Let's see here. Um, okay, try talking.
I can talk.
All right, people, can you hear Victoria now? Now that she's talking.
um Fuck, I never know what to say. I need to come in with
Yeah,
a
but
catchphrase.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
exactly. You'll need to develop that.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back a second, we're so
I
good.
just said I just said that Victoria's power is really boring. Um it just like throws you off because you've been only seeing like these really unique powers. I guess aside from Arms Master, who seemingly like they didn't describe
Right,
um
right.
his power at all, but
All the
as far as
Undersiders have
like
really interesting powers, though.
yeah, they have really interesting powers. Lungs is obviously really cool, and then they talked a bit about Bakida and Oni Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then this bitch comes in and she just, oh, I can fly and I'm super strong and everyone loves me, and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I
I don't
know.
feel like that. I don't really feel like that anymore, but I definitely did at the time. I
Right,
want to
right.
hear what new listeners how they felt about Victoria and Amy.
Yeah, Quinn and M let us know a little bit, and I know that Jordan was maybe going to be here and was in the audiobook listen. So if you're here, Jordan, then let us know what you think of Victoria's power. Let's see here. M just says, "Oh, they seem fine." Uh,
Oh, I guess I'm like way judgier than than Emily apparently.
Quinn says, "I thought Victoria was sick, even if her power is kind of plain."
Okay, that's good. These are a bunch of Taylor haters and Victoria lovers, so like I don't know if this is an accurate demographic.
I think it's unlike most people who read the story. Um,
Yeah.
let's see here. Oh yeah, but as far as them sort of bouncing off each other, um, where Taylor is like, dark haired and wears like a bug costume with yellow lenses that makes her look like a creep. You got like the blonde, like traditional hero colors, flies around with a golden tiara.
Oh my
um,
God.
she's kind of power tripping as like a way of life right now. And whereas Taylor's whole thing is like being so like subdued and like cowed to other people, and until like until a couple chapters before this, when she attacked Rachel, she had like no control in her life at all and stuff like that. Um, Casual property damage. Yeah, I mean the casual property damage I'll for sure mention, but I just think that that's not really her uh
Concern?
well, it's not like what makes her a reflection of Taylor. Like I was gonna say, the other things are that she's like popular and publicly known, whereas like Taylor's unpopular and like a total unknown to the point where she doesn't have a name yet. So yeah, I don't know. Victoria's still there.
Yeah, I'm just contemplating whether to mention this yet, but read your next bit.
Okay, okay. Um, So Victoria loves flying, which is made especially enjoyable by her force field protecting her from the negative aspects of it. There's no wind chill, and also bugs. Bugs can't get to
Hmm.
her. Bugs. I wonder who has this.
I
Uh,
wonder who has those.
she has a high but unclear top speed. It says she goes 80 miles an hour. I don't know if that's like a figure of speech, but I know that among people who can fly, she can go like reasonably fast. Um, she's able to crack the road on landing and reckless enough to do property damage just to make an entrance. She's practiced this landing so it would be more impressive in her off time, I guess. Much as we'll see with Taylor later on, Victoria really understands the like showmanship of being a cape. M says, "That's clever. Like I never thought about that. Like the Superman get gnats in his teeth." Oh boy. Um, but yeah, do you?
Yeah, first of all, the Okay, I said I was gonna talk positively about Victoria, but I'm so mean. I'm so
It's okay if you
mean
talk.
spirited.
It's very okay if
So
you talk negatively
I
about
was
her.
gonna talk shit about her pose because I did not enjoy Black Widow, but they do this bit where one of the side characters is like, "Why are you guys always crouching like that?" And then they do the exact same crouch that Victoria does when she lands. Um, so cringe there. But I was just gonna talk about a privilege here because I think this is like the big reason where people kind of are sour on Victoria, like at the very beginning, because not only does she have the like obvious privileges, like um being high status, being a hero, being beautiful and well known, and all those things, but she also has the powers, like the typical like powers that we think of when we think of superheroes, and here she's kind of bragging about how awesome they are and like how great they feel to her, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like, you know, listening to like a rich person talking about how much they love being rich, or like a talented person talking about how much they love being talented. Like it makes you feel like you're being discluded in some way, and so I don't like that that's how the chapter opens because I don't think that's what we're supposed to be feeling towards her. Like I think
Yeah, yeah,
that
I think that's a failure of the chapter.
yeah, don't they make fun of that in Deadpool 2? Probably, Emily.
Addressing Greg's comment, he had said, I was thinking about how the property damage reflects the more traditional hero archetype. She's got traditional hero powers and does traditional hero things, punching
Mm-hmm.
goons, throwing dumpsters. The hero landing, and yeah. Um, so, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Definitely, she's got tons of like tons of different ways where she's coming off as very self-absorbed in this opening, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um and it's just like a really narrow slice, and I'm not sure if he knew what he wanted to do with the character. Like it does all work with who she is, but it's just it's like a very negative view of her, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not certain how intentional it was. I mean, this is the early stuff, and it could be like he's trying to the boys up the writing and be like, these heroes are real bastards. I find, I mean, I haven't watched the boys really, but when I did watch it, it seemed very beating you over the head with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this feels a little unnuanced like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. So Victoria is a hero cape, and she's chasing a white supremacist to kick his ass. She stops on the ground and looks him in the eye before letting him run for a second. She doesn't wear a mask, so when she's intimidating people like that, she's just doing it with her own face. And clearly having fun with this, Victoria makes sure her hair is in order and casually flies after this guy, flying past him and grazing him, just knocking him down. She turns around with a dramatic flourish and stops in front of him. So she confronts him for having attacked a black woman and beating her to the point that she lost teeth. After he tries to say that he didn't do anything, she uses her third power on him, an emotional aura that makes people feel in awe of her. And people who have a reason to be scared of her are like terrified. So after that, he starts hedging and saying that he couldn't do anything, or that he didn't do anything worth caring about, and trying to keep his bravado through his like breaking composure.
Um I don't know if this is a good time to bring it up, but I did want to talk about the tone of the chapter because I think in the first couple of times that I listened to it or read it, I I didn't I didn't quite get it. Um because I think the chapter is supposed to be funny, and it is funny like in retrospect. Um but like that was just like not coming through. I think I was maybe thrown off because arcs 1 and 2 are decidedly not funny, and so like this like really threw a wrench in things.
Yeah, yeah. It's very different than anything we've gotten up to now. And like there is other funny stuff in the book later, and I think it's more casually funny as it goes along, but it's pretty bleak at the start.
Yeah.
I think the book is more like fun as it goes along. And then it's very grim in some parts, but
Mhm.
overall.
But she's having fun. Emily asked if they live in an orphanage, and I'm not sure if she was joking, but they do not. Amy is the adoptive sister. She was adopted by Victoria's blood-related family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um so flying up to him, she grabs him by the collar and hauls him into the air. Deciding not to slam him into a wall, she just holds him up dangerously high in the air. Her fallback plan is dumpster below. That if she accidentally drops him, he'll fall in. Even though it's like mostly empty, he would not totally die. I thought they were orphans. Um, one of them is orphaned, but
Well, sort of, yeah.
yeah. You know, when your dad goes to super jail forever. Um, let's see here. Uh, so correctly accusing him of being part of Empire 88, she starts to interrogate this guy up in the air. She uses her emotion aura to ratchet up the tension on him. Unable to look her in the eye, he keeps squirming to get away, despite the fact that he'd fall if he actually did. And then he starts to yell that there are laws against this and stuff, and she tells him that this is his last chance. Um, M says me in super jail, and then does.
Yeah.
I think should be our community's version of uses power, because that's how you use powers. You stand perfectly still.
Yeah.
Um, And then let's see here. There are a few lines here about how fear affects everyone differently, and we'll see anytime that there are emotion powers in play that they get really volatile. They affect everyone differently, depending on their own like psychology, and it's just like I don't know. It's like totally throws a wrench in anything whenever there's emotion powers involved. Um,
I do like that that scene that'll come later on where somebody throws an emotion power at bitch and Taylor's like, "Why would you make an angry person even angrier?"
exactly. And then this is oh yeah, when she increases the strength of her aura, he doubles down and digs his heel in, insulting Victoria directly. And losing her temper with him, she tosses him down the street. He flies for a bit and then rolls to a stop. Um, so at first, when he doesn't get up, she's concerned that she accidentally killed him by breaking his spine, and she's relieved to find that he's able to get up. But when he gets to his feet and she asks if he's ready to talk, he flips her off and tries to start walking away. Um, I kind of love this next part where Victoria's just thinking all these angry questions to herself. I think it. I didn't appreciate it fully until I did the read for it, and I
Mhm.
I kind of tried to channel some of like the Rain audiobook from like later, uh, and yeah, I just thought it was really good after that. So, um, then she totally loses it, and she says, "Screw you too," and then kicks the dumpster through the air that bashes the guy and probably brings him a lot closer to dying than tossing him did.
Yeah.
But
Um
mhm.
Victoria is just she's so fucking volatile here. Like I don't think we would see Taylor doing something like this at this point in the story.
Yeah.
So like I don't know, everybody acts like Taylor's really volatile or whatever and like emotional and like quick to act, but Victoria right now is like way more so.
Yeah, she's just always on the edge. Like this guy, she's comes in pissed and she's ready to like basically do this from the start. And then once he gives her an excuse, then bam.
Yeah. She's too bold. Yeah, that's right.
Oh god, that's a funny way to describe it. I was gonna use the word bold in some description. I remember I was thinking about it, and I was like, no, I'm gonna get roasted if I say bold.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I really liked the formatting here that Wildbow does. It doesn't necessarily come through on the audio because I gave it a bit more of a pause, but not especially. Uh, but I get that from the cadence of the book where this time he didn't get up. Like it's its own paragraph is that one sentence. And I think that's really good. And he gets a lot better at that, but this is just an early example of that kind of thing. Um, and then, oh yeah, I love how when she gets concerned, she just immediately starts swearing, like right away. Um, it's just like, oh man, she's so funny to me. But after making sure that he's still alive, she gets the cross streets and she calls her sister to join her there. And I really liked how in the first section where she checks his pulse, it's not clear how it's phrased if he's alive or not. She just sighs. It's like she checked his pulse. She sighed. We get to hear one side of a phone conversation that Victoria has with her sister Amy, and I think this is really good dialogue. Like it literally only took one take to get that record that I had there of this whole little back and forth thing, and I was flowing in from a previous thing, hadn't practiced it because it just was so natural compared to like the prose earlier. But anyway, Victoria awaits Amy, monitoring the guy's breath, and then Amy arrives on scene. Again, Victoria?
We
Um,
can we can talk about the names here. Emily said, yeah, William does love Victoria, probably more than he loves Taylor. Um and Emily hates it when people call each other sis.
mhm.
Did they call each other sis in this? Oh, she says hey sis, right? When she answers the phone.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Emily hates that and but like me and my sister actually call each other sis. But it's like ironic, I don't know.
There was definitely a long time when I ironically called Daniel bro and he did the same. But we like also called all our friends bro, so I don't know if that was
Yeah, I
it's hard
like
to tell.
actually call my siblings sis and bro. Like we all do that. I don't know. I think that it's funny.
Quinn
But
uses bro.
I don't think that it's as unrealistic as Emily thinks that it is. Um, I hate that I hate that she called her Vicky as of Victoria. I found that very offensive. She just randomly calls her Vicky in the middle of a sentence. The fuck?
Yeah.
Okay. Can't talk
I
about
would I was I had a strong compulsion to call you such as a bit, but I shall not. I shall not.
it's
It
gross.
shan't leave my lips.
You can talk about the code names.
Yeah. So Victoria has a complaint about the code names, which is a bit odd to me. It really feels a bit shoehorned in to get the name like Glory Girl and Panacea in it, which are only said a couple times total. Glory Girl is said three total times, twice by Amy, and I don't know, maybe all three times by Amy. I'm spacing out again. But
Mhm.
then Panacea only gets said a single time. Um, and then by contrast, Victoria, being the chapter perspective, is used 38 times, and Amy is used 31, despite only showing up halfway into the chapter. So I think Wildbow wants us to associate them with their civilian names and show how Victoria thinks of herself and her sister by their like actual first names. Um, and I think it's like I don't know what to say about it yet, but I think there's like a different mindset for capes who think of themselves as their civilian name versus capes who primarily think of themselves as their cape name.
Oh, definitely. And there'll be like more of that later on, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes, Emily, Panacea is like penicillin. I'm sure they're not like directly related, more in like a root word kind of thing.
Oh,
Uh,
well, panacea is let me get the exact definition, but it's like cure-all. It's like the grand panacea is the elixir of life that you're supposed to get from, like, that's what alchemy is about getting
mhm.
the immortal life, panacea. So, panacea is a noun, a solution or remedy for all difficulties or diseases.
Nice. And
So,
that's what she is. Um I I didn't even like note this in anywhere. But I love Amy.
yeah, yeah.
She's
Vic loves Amy, and I love Victoria Dallin.
yeah, I'm obsessed with Amy. She's one of my favorite characters. She's definitely like S tier for me. Um so I'll try to hold that back. But and I did want to mention her calling their mom Carol like very to her own sister. It wasn't like she was talking to the third character there. She was like, "Oh, what do you think Carol's gonna think about that?" So obviously like I think that names are kind of a big deal or like a theme in this
Especially in
chapter.
this book. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
in this book too.
But the chapter for sure. I'll plunk that onto our mini list here that was very
Hmm.
short for themes names. Um, cool. So I was gonna say about yeah, the Carol thing. Like we hear Victoria talk about her, like describing who she is, to the thug, but uh, oh wait, no, I was talking about that later anyway. I shouldn't bring that up now.
Okay. Yes, Emily, Carol is their mom.
Um, wow, getting
That's
all ahead of
that's why
myself.
I guess that's why she was confused, is because they refer to her as Carol and not
Yeah,
mom.
I think they very briefly like one time mention that it's her mom.
Yeah.
But it's like punctuated with Brandish being her cape name.
Hmm.
Em, what do you think Brandish's power is? Um, let's see here. Boop 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 boo. Where were we? So, oh yeah. I think Victoria's not so easily able to compartmentalize, despite the fact that she tells Amy to refer to her by her code name. Uh, but someone like Taylor's amazing at compartmentalizing. Like you can tell in the future when she's like distraught if she thinks someone's like civilian name when they're wearing a costume.
Yeah.
Um yeah, what the fuck? M says swords, arms turn into swords. Wait,
Yeah.
fire. I just imagine this in M's like stream voice where it's like very confused and punctuated sometimes.
I guess I don't know what brandish means. It just means to like hold something, right? Like to brandish a sword. That does make sense.
It's like holding threateningly.
Arms turn into swords. That's not a very good name for her, is
Let
it?
me think. Brandish. I kind of think it is, though. Wave or
Okay, well.
flourish, something especially a weapon, as a threat, or in anger or excitement.
Mm,
And I mean,
okay.
given her personality,
Yeah. I don't know too much about her.
well, like, she just, like, jumps into combat, like, right away, and she's very aggressive, and, like,
Mm.
she's willing to go, like, all out and, like, threaten people with extreme bodily harm. I think that despite what Amy says in this chapter, um, is Carol a Karen? Yes and
Yes.
no. Like I don't. She's not like in the real world. There are a lot of connotations to a Karen that don't apply to her, but she kind of is a get me the manager kind of person. But she also is the manager.
She's a girl boss Karen, the worst kind.
Yeah, she's like a major girl boss. That's what she really is. That's the important part. And she do gaslight.
I do feel like she's a Karen mom wise though. As far as I know. I know you know more than I do, but
Yeah. Well, okay, so describe the mom why like describe it a little bit and I'll just like yay nay.
I don't know, just like emotionally. negligent to their children.
Okay, yeah, like it's
But
like the
overbearing
traditional
at the same
WASP
time.
mom where it's like we've got to go to Walmart, but also like
Yeah.
takes too much time and then like is terrible while you're there. But the superhero version of that.
Yeah. Always yelling. Yeah. Let me speak to your manager. But
Very
as a kid.
strict. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna talk to me about this later.
Mhm.
What were you gonna say though here about the?
You can do the descriptions first.
Oh, okay, yeah. So going to the just these are direct quotes of the descriptions of the two characters and their costumes. The contrast. Where Victoria was beautiful, tall, gorgeous, blonde, Amy was mousy. And then Victoria's costume showed off her figure with a white one-piece dress that came to mid-thigh with shorts underneath, an over-the-shoulder cape, high boots, and a golden tiara with spikes radiating from it, vaguely reminiscent of the sun's rays or the Statue of Liberty. And then Amy's costume, by contrast, was only a shade away from being a burqa. Amy wore a robe with a large hood and a scarf that covered the lower half of her face. The robe was alabaster white with a medic's red cross on the chest and the back.
So the first of all, Victoria is just as savage as Taylor. Just like so fucking mean about Amy's appearance for absolutely no reason, just totally unprompted. Um, and then I wanted to talk
I'm
about
just
like the
worried about
kind
my
of
unattractive sister.
I know. I wanted to talk about the like perspective here because this is we kind of have to get used to this like third person but like a first person omniscient perspective. Um,
I've heard it called close second person, but I don't actually know that that's right. Because
I
I'm
think
just
it's
not
close third
smart about
person.
this stuff. It's close third person. Okay.
I think so. But and like the sorry, what's it called? The unreliable narrator aspect of that. Because I think that when you're in a first person perspective, like when we are in Taylor's eyes, although you can get really wrapped up into whatever's going on, like you're very cognizant the whole time of the fact that it is from her perspective, and so things are going to be like skewed. Um, but then when like the third person comes in, it's really ambiguous where the biases are coming from, if you know what I mean. So like
Okay.
when Victoria describes her own costume, I wouldn't have thought that this was coming from a biased point of view until she mentions the shorts underneath because like why would a third person mention that? You know what
Right.
I mean?
But I think this does come from I think all the and we sort of had a I forget where it was, but you said that you had sort of disagreed. It was kind of about the same thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A little further down here. So,
Mhm.
I mean, the way that I've always sort of thought about this is that it's not that we get a reliable narration, it's that we get a reliable perspective of what that character believes.
Mhm.
So, like, when we see, like, I don't think it's a shock to see we say we see from some villains. So we'll see from Coil's perspective, one of the villains mentioned here in quite a while, and when we see from his perspective, like we kind of see, like there are a few things hidden from the audience in a way, but I feel like there's no red herrings when he thinks like, oh, I feel this way about something. It's never like revealed that he didn't feel that way, and I never feel like there are turnarounds in that way. So I think when we feel like the character felt this way, or like a character description of something that like, even though it's kind of third person,
Mhm.
it's still like their thoughts almost. Bye, David. Bye bye.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's like more clear when it's like, oh, Victoria thought this or did
Right,
this or
right, right,
whatever.
right. Yeah,
But
clear to the
when you're like
audience.
describing a scene or like something that should be objective but isn't because like nothing is objective when it's from somebody's point of view, like that's where I feel like it can kind of get dubious. And I won't talk about Pride and Prejudice that much, but I think that like when you read something like Pride and Prejudice, you can see like when it's shifting perspectives. Um, it'll like be the perspective of a whole group of people, but it's very difficult to tell. So you can like get swept up really easily into that group of people's opinions and like perspective on things. And I just kind of feel similarly with the interlude chapters, like you get swept up because you are kind of um
You're along
like
for the
less
ride for sure,
yeah,
but
you're along for the ride and you're less aware that like where the biases are going to be.
yeah, I think that's something to watch as a reader is the fact that like even the setting details, like if they describe there being buildings nearby or like what types, like all that stuff is affected
Mhm.
by whose perspective we see. Like
Yeah.
it can be subtle sometimes because some stuff is kind of like generic in a way, but like the things that people choose to focus on, the things they see and hear, because there are some times when we'll see, like very occasionally, when we'll see a scene from multiple perspectives, like one chapter and then the next. And I feel like there's like a big difference between the way Taylor will see something and then say whatever other character, sees the contrasting scene.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think that's important to keep in mind because yeah, it's easy to forget and it's easy to get swept up in the like non first person view and feel like it's more objective, like the book telling you, but it never really is. Like there is no objective point of view per se, like no omniscient book where a lot of books do have that device of like the non-spoken text is just like fact, I guess.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I agree.
So, um, anyway, where were we?
Um, we finished the descriptions.
Okay, cool. Um, oh, we also get like a minor additive to the description of Amy in a bit. That's she has brown frizzy hair and a face with freckles spaced evenly across it.
Emily said, I always forget this is from Taylor's perspective until she talks about how ugly someone is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Taylor's so fucking judgy. You could have easily confused Victoria and Taylor in this chapter.
Oh yeah. Also, I think I actually didn't mention it in my notes, but um, uh, Victoria also notes what the skinhead is wearing. It's not clear in this chapter because you only get to see her viewing a couple people, but she really focuses on like fashion and the way she thinks about people and like thinks about the choices of why they picked the clothes they're wearing on top of other stuff like that. And tries to use the clothes that they are wearing to form a mental image of them so that when she goes into a conversation, she's not going in completely like empty or blind. So, yeah, like she's pretty smart in that way.
Yeah. I'm excited for that content because I'm also super fucking judgy about
Well, I'm
people's outfits.
see this is one minor thing where I'm like worried that you will be judgy about the way that Wildbow wrote the fashion, even though
Oh,
like I do think it's really good. I'm just worried that you will have like a really high standard for that stuff and not be impressed. It's just sort of the typical random anxieties about your friends liking your stuff, your
well,
favorite books.
so far he does not have very good fashion taste.
M says, "Oh no, now I have to be a fashionista around Victoria."
You don't have to be a fashionista, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know what to tell you either. I don't know if you're gonna just hate Victoria's fashion throughout the whole thing. Well, it's funny also because like she has a clashing fashion sense with a lot of the people she's around. So,
Oh, that's funny.
um, but okay, so both of these two young ladies are part of the a team that's pushing for more accountability for heroes, and they have public identities, so their faces are not covered, and people know their names. Um, they have a sort of little sister spat about principles and morals and whatever, and they have some more what I found to be like pretty easy dialogue. I I really did have this dividing line of like easy and not easy dialogue. Of there were a couple chunks that were over a minute long that I did in a single take, not reclipping any of it afterward, and those sections I was like, that's the good dialogue. Because you can say
Yeah.
it. Like it's things that humans would say. Um, so it actually felt like a person speaking when I read it, and it was really like interesting and good, I thought. Uh,
Mhm.
Amy says this is the sixth time that Victoria's nearly killed someone, and I'm being a little bit flippant here, but six, that's not bad for someone who's been an active parahuman for 2 years.
Oh my god.
And then Victoria mentions it's hard to hold back. um, Amy tries to make a little power play in their sister dynamic here to try and rein in Victoria's violent streak, and pretends for a second or for a minute or so to be like, I'm not gonna heal this guy. Eh. But it was a pretty empty threat in my opinion, even though Victoria takes it seriously. Because if Amy had gone through with it, the consequences for Victoria would have been very serious, of course. So it was a pretty big deal from her perspective. I've only
Yeah.
horribly maimed a few people, says Greg, and that's right. Only a few.
I, j- I just feel like Amy was like obviously joking. Like she wasn't joking, but she like obviously wasn't being serious here. And
Mm-hmm.
Victoria's like, "Oh my god, how could you betray our family like?" And I don't know, is that can you tell? I guess it's not really a spoiler, but like does Victoria often take things like a little too literally or like too seriously?
Yeah, Victoria. Okay, so it's really funny to me because Victoria is a character who like wants to be funny, but she's really not.
Yeah.
So like it's funny for the audience because she's unfunny, and her mannerisms and like thought processes are super funny in themselves as well. So in that way, like I think she's a really funny character, but she's like an unfunny person. Um and that's amazing.
That's so cringe. Taylor's kind of like that too. But Taylor will just not do anything if she's not positive if it'll be funny.
It's
So,
true. Taylor's
so she does
usually like
come off
silent.
her humor does come off better because she like is able to judge whether other people would think it was be funny or not.
I literally think that other capes think her humor is funny, but like normal people or like heroes who don't know her, who just like see her do some really horrifyingly violent thing and then quip afterward, I think
Yeah.
those people are just like horrified and like this and that about it, but then like other villains are just like that that Taylor knows how to have a good time.
True.
Yeah. Um so like what is M saying? I appreciate that Victoria thought it was serious, like Greg in the story. Yeah, it's like it is a little bit like funny how not socially adroit that moment is. It is very Greg like. Um so in that way, Vic, you should love Victoria because she's, closer to Greg.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to roast me and I was ready to fight.
No, I was
Victoria's
roasting.
just like you.
No, no, no. I was roasting you for liking Greg.
It's fine. It's fine. I do like Greg.
Hmm. So this is we get into the part where Victoria guilt trips Amy into helping, and brings up their team and their family, which are one and the same. And we get the name of their team, which is New Wave. Unlike the older recording of the audiobook, they're not the New Wave, they're just New Wave. Um, it's a long-standing team in Brockton Bay that formed as the Brockton Bay Brigade when they still wore masks and had secret identities, but they have since become publicly known. And so Victoria and Amy have been publicly known as the children of superheroes since before they were teenagers and like long before they had powers. So And Amy does not want to be a cape, like still current.
Mm.
So, um, Victoria's guilt trip gets accusatory, and she starts pushing. Like this is why I think she like totally doesn't like she's taking Amy like totally at face value. Because she gets really serious here. And says some regrettable stuff in ways. Kind of is just like, I can't believe you betray your family, Amy. Um,
Yeah. Just way too much.
yeah. Then Amy retorts with some arguments, and then she kind of just like yells out a whole bunch of arguments all at once, and then Victoria, and she's getting pretty defensive too, which is understandable given Victoria's stance in this conversation. But Victoria just goes for it, defeats her by pulling her into a hug, and just squeeze hugs her. And even though she wouldn't need to use super strength to like stop Amy from escaping, Amy's just so kind of like physically useless. Um, she's very clumsy and weak and not good at running.
Wow.
I'm sorry. It will come
Yeah.
up later.
It'll come up later. Her not good running skills.
Yeah. And then that's what really wins her over, I think, is when Victoria hugs her. Amy accuses Victoria of using her power on her to make her feel awe, but Victoria isn't using her power. Um, a lot of people think either she is like using her power unconsciously or not using her power when they read Worm, but I think there's just like a lot of evidence later to say that like it's almost I think it's just always expressed in text when her power is out and going.
That's fine. I just wanted to believe she was using her power because that interaction makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, well, the implications of the thing where people think that she used her power all the time makes me more uncomfortable.
Oh, they think that she was just like she uses it on purpose all the time to like
Yeah, and that
do what she wants and make
it's
everyone
why
love her.
such and such happens.
Oh. Well, that's dumb, yeah. And
Um
like we see evidence too, like what Amy is saying is accurate, that like you can be desensitized to like emotion-based powers.
that is true for some of them. I don't think that's actually true for Victoria's power.
Oh, okay.
There's no evidence that I've seen other than Amy saying this one time and Carol trying to bluff it at a different time. Uh,
Mm.
I think that her family members lie about it and that it always continues to affect people.
Oh my God.
I'm not kidding. I think they've been gaslighting her about that part of her power.
Yeah.
Um, but looking at the text or the chat here, we've got Quinn saying she's just like me for real. About how hugs are super effective. Oh no, not good at running. Clumsy thing too. You know what? It's the whole package. Quinn is just a whole Amy. Um, let's see here. You got a comedy beat where the girls don't care about the skinhead moaning in pain. Um, and then
Oh God, what did I write here? Oh, yeah, it's just like okay, so now like my defenses about the writing and Victoria or whatever don't even matter because everyone's like Victoria's fine, I guess. But I do feel like it's like supposed to be the like funny back and forth between the sisters and then like the skinhead who they like really don't care about or whatever. But it comes off because like it was a really serious situation to begin with, and then they like are really dismissive of the situation later. It does make Victoria come off bad, I think. It makes her come off as insincere. I wrote that she comes off as a brat, but you know what I mean.
yeah, she does seem a bit bratty in this chapter.
Yeah, like she's just going through the motions and she's not like actually taking it seriously unless it is like adding more to her image.
Right, I get you. Yeah, I think that's right. A lot of the people, not in our audience, but like on the Duth Media podcast and on some of the other like casts I've seen, have like extremely negative opinions of these characters at the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I think that it's just kind of odd to me that they would come away with such a like one-sided view of these characters who clearly have like kind of a lot going on in.
Yeah, and I do think it's mostly like issues with the tone. Like
Yeah.
I think that Wildbow could have pulled off this chapter with the same tone if he did it now, but I think he was
Yeah.
like trying for something and he just kind of missed it, missed the mark.
Right, right. Yeah, I get you. So Amy starts healing the guy, and then she negs Victoria, telling her how bad she broke the guy.
Mm.
You're such a rebel and such a villain. I can't believe you'd break somebody this bad.
Oh
Wow.
my God.
Hope nobody pushes me into a wall. um, and then uh, and then Victoria goes, "I get the point." Um, and then Amy says, uh, "It'll take some time to." Oh yeah, it'll take some time to fix the guy. So then Victoria float sits there, which I find kind of funny, and we can see that here in the nice image from Vic. I like the style. Well, let's talk about the art for a second, since this is the moment. Um, I was telling you on the call earlier, I really like the style. You did like a great job at making this look super different from the other art images, especially for this arc, but like overall so far. Um,
Thank you.
I like the really flat colors that you had achieved. So, do you want to talk
Yeah.
about it?
I'll just say I feel like I did my Victoria design a little differently than like most of the art that I've seen of her. And that always makes me nervous when I do that because I'm like, am I just being like a contrarian or whatever? Or like, I don't want people to see the character and not associate them with her. But I think it turned out well and I had fun doing it. And yeah, my plan was to do like a somewhat different style for the interludes just because we can. They're kind of independent. Um, and I think it gives you like a little bit of a different perspective than like the Taylor style.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for it because I think that like that's something that Wildbow was trying to achieve with his writing that he got better and better at as the
Hmm.
story goes, that like the interludes will feel super different from the Taylor chapters like later on and from each other of course.
Hmm.
And you just I don't know, it's nice to be able to capture all those different perspectives because in a lot of books that I read um like Snow Crash, it's an amazing book, but when you're seeing the storyline about like one of the mobsters, like one of the low level guys, it kind of feels the same as when you're seeing the perspective of the main character or the perspective of the like secondary protagonist. It kind of just like the book's perspective is the book's perspective, but this is like really fun in the way that you get to see in the minds of these people.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, let's see here. Let's look at the chat because I looked away for a second. So I feel like if she didn't actually care, she wouldn't have asked how the girl that gotten beaten up was doing. I agree. Yeah. I'll bring that up in a while, but I fully agree with you on that. Like that is like one of the big redeeming qualities about Victoria is that she is like a hero who is first and foremost like wants to help people and wants to like materially is fighting people who are making lives worse for people in her community. Um, so I think that there's a lot of merit to like what she does. And she's fucking fighting white supremacists. So, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and then Greg says, I really like the Amy especially. Um, yeah, Amy looks great. Um, and then M says it's cool. It translates that this is from a different person. Yeah, I agree. I think it really captures that. But moving on. Victoria checks with Amy how the victim is doing and asks about her. Asks about her by name, Andrea. Um, Amy fixes her up physically, but didn't touch the brain at all to address the psychological or emotional effects of the attack. And then we have thoughts on this, of course.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I understand like in a different context, like if somebody's brain dead, you should fix their brain or whatever. But it's like, okay, somebody went through a traumatic experience. What is Amy gonna do about that? That is like
Yeah, like
not,
blank the memory doesn't really
yeah,
make
like
sense.
get rid of it or like accelerate like the healing of her trauma. But like what it just seems like there's like weird like morals and ethics around like taking away experiences from people.
Yeah, my note here just says talk about weird ethics around the idea of fixing this mentally or whatever. Because it's just like, I don't know really in this case what Victoria wanted her to do. I do like get what she's saying overall, but I think that
Hmm.
this is another like exposition shoehorn. I think that this is kind of a bad writing moment because like I want them to have this fight over something where it's like um
Where
what
it's not like so morally gray or whatever, where it makes a lot more sense for Amy to have done something.
yeah, there's ways that you can go blind that are like degenerative brain things. I think I'm ass pulling this, but I'm pretty sure I remember this like from just random science TV. You know how TV was in the fucking 90s. Nova was just on. Um,
Mm.
but like you could fix something like that where there's kind of no personality portion to it. It's kind of unambiguously like this is just a degenerative like whatever condition that you could just stop or reverse and then bring the eyesight back because it's not to do with, I don't know. I just think there's ways around it.
Yeah, I think that that was just a bad exposition kind of thing, and I'm trying to think of like, I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, like, there's obvious examples later in the story of, like, oh, this is a legit example where you would want her to fix the brain. And I was,
Mhm.
trying to avoid, like, name dropping any of the things that'll happen, so. But,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, same.
Um, let's see here. This is where we see. Oh, yeah, you said that you think this is some of the weakest writing in the chapter, and I agree with you.
Yeah, just like the back and forth. It's not even a back and forth. It's just, oh, you can actually affect brains, and then Amy rattles off a list of things, which is fine, whatever. It just it doesn't feel like realistic dialogue.
Yeah, and, like, probably the hardest line record was when she says the way that she fixed Andrea. Like the it's not the what got fixed, it was the it'll feel like she had the best nutritionist and doctor, and like just the wording of it was so clunky and like so like needs a second pass to make it feel like a human said this line.
Yeah.
um yeah. Forced exposition indeed, Em. Let's see here. Victoria decides not to push Amy about her powers while she's doing her a favor and covering up the overuse of force on this dipshit. Um, Victoria thinks about how even if they're not blood related, they're definitely sisters and they have recurring arguments, etc. Um, I don't know if you're actually gonna say that.
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I thought maybe. Victoria wrote a cheeky little comment that we shall keep unspoken. It's clear, or Vic did. It's clear that Victoria really does think of Amy as a close family member. One of the benefits of having these close second, or I called it close second person here, but now I'm super questioning that. So close third person point of view is that we get to see, the interlude character's perspective and stuff. So cheeky
Yeah, I already
indeed.
I already talked about how I feel like that. I
Yeah, we
feel
we
about
go
that.
we went over it. We don't necessarily agree on it, but
It's fine.
um then Victoria, never missing an opportunity, interrogates the guy while Amy's healing him. Amy pretends to be hesitant about this, but directly plays into the interrogation as it goes. Victoria convinces the guy to talk with a combo of threats and bluffing, and then he tries to insult her, but uh, with Victoria talking about her lawyer mom and Amy threatening the guy with ED, he starts talking. M says, give to the Patreon for Victoria's cheeky little comment. Yeah, if you give to my non existent Patreon, I will share with you what Victoria said on this doc. Um,
Quinn says, "Oh, I thought they were like actual sisters. They are actual sisters. Amy is just adopted.
but they've been
They've been
sisters and lived
sisters for
together for more
over
than
10
10
years.
years. Yeah,
Yeah. So like I feel like at that point you're sisters."
yeah. Um, And then I've heard in the past the complaint that Amy gets these things that she's saying in this little section where she's like bluffing at him about the Hippocratic Oath and stuff wrong, like how that's bad. But I've always seen this as like a moment where Amy doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about, but is just completely like bluffing her way forward and stuff.
I didn't I saw it differently. I just saw that she was just making shit up because she thought that the guy wouldn't know any better, and then he corrects her or whatever, and she's just like, "No, no."
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I mean is that she's just like she's kind of just making it up and lying and then it not thinking it's going to come up and then when she's challenged on it, she just continues with the lie and she's like, "No, I'm right. I'm right."
Yeah.
Um
Oh, and then I think immediately when he does challenge her, she stops healing him. I actually did think that was a funny joke where she was like, oh, he's like, "Isn't that do no harm?" And she basically does harm on him and then tells him he's wrong.
yeah, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, Amy.
Oh, Amy. I love her.
Oh, believe me, I know. Um After he sort of concedes to them, the guy sort of outlines the situation in the crime world of Brockton Bay. Um, he name drops Kaiser as the leader of the Empire 88, or maybe, yeah, I think he does. Um, Aside from E88, the other big player is Coil, who has unknown powers and a private army of mercenaries. They're like ex-soldiers and stuff, and they have high grade gear and training. So they're like special ops guys essentially running around the city, like murdering E88 guys. Which I mean, I see as strictly a benefit to the city. um,
Yeah.
and then they talk about how they have good armor, like it's better than Kevlar, which I can imagine also like it's probably better than anything we have in real life because it's probably at least partially Tinker Tech because they also have like these purple laser gun things, and so that's what makes me think they're getting outfitted with actual Tinker gear, not just like high end gear. Um, but let's see here. The two factions have been fighting over downtown, but now the docks have some sort of there's like a power vacuum because Lung was so strong he was able to hold the territory there for the ABB. Um, but because of him being gone, the remainder of the ABB will probably be fighting against the two major factions as well as like all of the small groups and like individual villain capes and stuff. So there's like a major shift in the power dynamic between the three factions after Lung was arrested. He was sort of a keystone in the region, a Saddam Hussein, if you will. Um, let's see here. There are mentions of a lot of names that we see now to prime us for when we really meet them later. I think Faultline is worth mentioning because she was almost the protagonist to the story. In another in another major iteration, it would have been her, but then another one had centered around Victoria and Amy actually, and that story originally was going to be called Guts and Glory, which I think is funny. Um, and then, so yeah, among the names we see are Uber and Leet, which we already have heard, Circus, which we heard from the Undersiders meeting, but we're getting reprimed, the Undersiders themselves, Squealer, Trainwreck, and then we hear about Stain. He's mentioned here, or they're mentioned here, but are so minor that we never hear about them again, and don't even know anything about them.
Yeah, I want to hear what people would think Stain's power is. Well, William, what do you think Stain's power is?
Stain's power is that they can fade themselves onto a wall like Link in that Between Worlds game, and he can walk on the side of walls as though they were a painting landscape and then pop out of them. So he's a stain on the wall and then he can come out on other portions of it, which is really good for sneaking up behind people. It's good for getting into places to do heists. Pretty good power.
Pretty good power. And I'm just gonna go on a limb and assume that they were a part of Squealer and Trainwreck's crew. I'm not exactly sure
Yeah,
why he mentioned them all separately.
I'm not sure. Well, I think Trainwreck wasn't part of the merchants at this moment and joined them
Mhm.
as part of the like this and the power struggle that was happening directly in like the second movement of the story.
But Squealer was definitely not even like the leader. Maybe Squealer was on their own before they started dating Kidmark or whatever.
I think one of the main things is that like Skidmark does what he does, but Squealer like I think her power I think the only reason that she's not the leader of the group is because, like, her and Skidmark are like toxic people who probably follow like super traditional gender roles and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, her tinker power to build these giant vehicles really fast, like, that seems like a really good core of the team, like, actual main person on the team kind of power. I can see from the outside if someone was like, the merchants don't matter, except Squealer will build a giant death tank and roll over you. Like,
And broke tribe over everyone, yeah.
to me, that kind of makes sense from an outsider perspective of someone who's going to fight them.
Um, M asked if Circus is the Joker. No,
Circus
not
is,
not similar in any way, huh?
yeah, Circus doesn't really have any overlap. I'm trying to think of a good. Circus is like a fire breather who throws knives. Her Circus's power set is like varied. It's got like a lot of aspects to it, and so there's a lot of different things she can do that are all minor powers. Um, but I
And then
would,
she just has like a different like a circus theme. She wears like different outfits every time, right?
yeah, she literally has a like it's on theme and it's always like a Harlequin thing, but it's like a clearly different outfit every time she goes out.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Um, let's see here. Actually, Circus might go by they. I don't know.
I wasn't sure.
Well, we'll just say Circus until we know.
Okay.
Let's see here. Yes. The guy says there will probably be a full-scale war for the docks and then floats the idea that the villains might form alliances during the power struggle, making things even worse for the heroes. He seems like genuinely happy at the idea that there will probably be civilian casualties from the fighting and tries to make Victoria feel bad or like rub it in her face or whatever. And then they just leave him there and pretend they gave him AD. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Like, I mean, I guess I have much less sympathy for this person than like other readers do. He reminds me of real life bad guys who, if this happened to them, I would be happy. So you know, I'm not gonna extend better morality to this fictional skinhead than I would to a real one. I mean, like, I'm not above wanting some vengeance.
Fine. And like they got, cause like I think she wanted to fucking rough him up a little bit. So she did exactly what she intended.
Yeah, exactly. So Victoria calls the authorities to pick the guy up. Since the visible damage of her attack on him is gone, she's able to call him into the special line, or call in to a special line because she's a known hero within the city. And Amy kept him unable to escape by leaving his legs and one of his arms numb for the next 3 hours. Um, Amy lets Victoria know that she didn't actually give him EED, but she, with the power of suggestion and the numbness she gave him, should take care of the rest. And they laugh together as they walk away. How heartwarming.
So cute.
Do you have anything to say before I jump into this extra stuff we typed?
No, go for it.
Okay. So his chapter kind of suffers from having too much exposition. Even some of the clunky dialogue sections between the sisters, it's just a bunch of plot details getting out there, and it feels pretty forced. But I like it. I like it a lot better now that I've read it. I don't want to sound too self-centered, but I just feel like I captured more what I thought the chapter was going for, and I think I brought out the aspects of it that I wanted to highlight in terms of the banter between them that was good, in terms of the kind of funny moments that I thought really did work.
Yeah. And we can talk about. I didn't re-listen to the old reading, but the 2 or 3 times I did listen to it, I remember really not enjoying it. And like that's kind of why I not that I told you to re-record it or whatever, but I thought that it would be a good idea.
You kind of did.
I kind of told you
If
to
you give me a
because
prompt for something, I will take it as license to go ahead and do that thing. And I do, like, I literally want that because I wouldn't have thought to do that on my own. And
yeah.
it turned out really good because I mostly got that in one sitting. I did two little practice sessions basically, and then I essentially sat down and re recorded everything I had already done and finished out the chapter. And that took all in all about 5 hours. And I don't think it would take that long if I did it a second time because I developed a bunch of like ways to do it faster. So like
Mhm.
I really want to record some chapters later, especially. I mean, some of the really bad chapters have been replaced already. Like the labyrinth chapter is the one that jumps out to me, like where
Mm.
it's the first reading was hard to even follow what was happening at all.
Yeah. And I would be happy to record a couple chapters too.
Nice.
Um if you didn't want to do them for whatever reason. I'm trying to remember which ones.
Well, I kind of would like for you to read for some of the ones I don't think I can do the voices for. Like I felt like I was only barely able to do like a decent Amy Victoria. I don't have that many like girl voices in me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um because, so I can only like do so much range. Uh so there's probably going to be ones where I'm like yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. I can't voice a lot of men either, so.
Yeah. Um but I'd be really excited about that. So we'll look into that later. Um let's see here. M says Victoria voicing Victoria? No.
No,
That
I'll
wouldn't
voice
actually
a couple.
happen.
I'll do some Meg chapters. Are the Kraus chapters?
They're
I couldn't
really
remember if
good.
those were
Kraus
good or
is read
bad.
by Crispy. They're really
Oh, okay.
good.
Yeah, we love those. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, like I think that that's part of what made me like so on his side in a way that a lot of people weren't. Um is that like the narration is very compelling, and I felt because of the way that Crispy voice acts that, like able to connect with the character. And you know, I think I had as a teenager a lot in common with Kraus anyway. Like I was a real shithead. So
Yeah, I feel surprised that like other well, we won't talk about Kraus right now. Sorry. I feel
yeah.
surprised when other people have like differing um perspectives on characters than me. Like when people are talking because we talk shit about Taylor and like we give her a hard time
But
or
we love
whatever, but
her.
other people are way harder on her and they like actually mean it.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I think Taylor's just like so sympathetic, like with everything she goes through, and like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's see here. Boop 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 boo. There is. Oh yeah, conflicting feelings between different people reading this chapter about like Victoria interrogating the guy, and this is M had brought up to sort of my side of the argument. M had brought up the idea that she had asked about the victim and asked by name, and I think that was important. Like she knows the person that she, like from her perspective, she knows the person that she's like getting this revenge for, basically. But um, it's about helping the people, even if she's not doing that. Like that is her goal. That is her core like mission. So like that makes her to me very sympathetic.
Mm.
Anyway, unless you have more to say about the chapter, I guess we'll move on to the themes.
Yeah, let's talk about themes. I was gonna say about okay, so obviously bullying is always a theme, and this time Victoria was the bully, I guess.
Well, it's like a
Um,
multi-tiered bullying scheme.
yeah, it was it's just like an MLM, um, where she was bullying the bully, and from Taylor's perspective, bullying the bully is perfectly fine. I don't think there's any time when someone's bullying the bully where she gets upset, is there?
I agree with you. Yeah, I don't think there is.
Yeah, so
I was like
nothing
trying to like racking my brain, and no.
nothing questionable there. Amy is being a bystander, you know, as bystanders be.
Yeah.
Um, but it's fine because Victoria did nothing wrong.
Well, I don't know. Taylor might be fine with Amy overall for this situation because Amy's main contribution, I think, from like a totally Taylor-brained perspective, she would see Amy as having mostly like big impact healing Andrea, and she'd be like, okay, so that's like Brian stepping in with the darkness, and
Mhm.
then big impact helping interrogate the assisting with the bullying the bully,
Yeah.
and she would only see her a bystander for the time in which she uh, was like, I don't know if I'm gonna help bully this bully. Ironically, I think that's the time when Taylor would have been most like, I don't know about this sketchy behavior, Amy.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love like applying Taylor brain to situations because you just get these crazy results a lot of the times. Um, and then family is of course an important theme of this one. It like Amy's adopted, but she very much like is, as we've talked about, like family with them. She's lived with them for as long as she can remember, and like their team is their literal family members. For Victoria, they're all blood except for Amy. For Amy, they're all adopted, but um, and then
Yeah.
oh, and
I was just gonna mention like how
mhm,
the difference between how Victoria sees the family and how Amy sees them, where Amy sees them as a team, calls her mom Carol,
mhm.
clarifies that Victoria is only her adoptive sister, obviously does not feel very included
Right,
in the
right, but
family.
like I get the impression that that's very correct, but that also Victoria wants Amy to be with them there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I think she can't understand, like from her perspective, there's it's not really understandable how Amy wouldn't want to be a superhero.
Yeah, I was unsure, like, so Amy doesn't want to be a cape, but like what does what does she want then?
I think that she has no like specific like realistic goals in mind for the
Mm,
future, like knowing what we know about the future of the story. I don't think she had a plan for the future. I think she's just sort of coasting through life. She doesn't really know how she wants to proceed. Like she feels like super trapped by her power.
mm.
I think is a big part of it because she feels like she can't stop like just always healing people, and like anytime that she gets downtime she feels like she's wasting her time because she could be like saving people, and she
Yeah,
doesn't want that
or die.
burden. She never wanted to be able to save people in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, Amy.
Oh, Amy. um and then we get manipulation, classic between these two. They some people argue that Victoria manipulated Amy, and some people argue that Amy manipulated Victoria. But consider this: did they both manipulate every other person in the scene and also
Yes.
themselves?
Yes. Everyone was manipulating everyone. It was kind of fun. Um, Amy was obviously guilt tripping. I like am even hesitant to call that manipulation because she was just trying to make Victoria feel bad for like almost killing someone,
Yeah,
and that seems very reasonable.
it's reasonable with no outside context, but knowing who Amy is, like, just some of this stuff comes off so bad to me.
Oh, it does come off a little bad. And then Victoria quote unquote manipulating Amy into just listening to her and healing the guy, I also don't think was very bad because she's literally like, this will ruin everybody I know's lives, and and this guy would probably die. So like, also not that bad.
They could probably fix him
Manipulating
up all right.
manipulating that the fucking skinhead, like who cares? That's their job.
Yeah.
So like I know it seems like whatever. I
Also,
think that
like, the
people
thing is, they're fucking capes. When you're a cape, like, a lot of the rules go out the window in terms of, like, you're just perpetually in these, like, dire situations.
yeah. Emily says that manipulation sounds extreme, but like I think that people have a really extreme view of these characters and like what they do
Yeah,
to each other and to others.
seriously, most of the time when I hear about, like, this chapter in particular, people, like, think these two are just absolute monsters, and it's like, I. I don't know. We spend a lot of time with a lot of characters, and these two are not, like, this is not that bad.
This exact definitely what happens in this chapter isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Victoria wants to convince Amy to like be able to work on brains or whatever. But she ends up not pushing that point. But it seems like something that she's been pushing for for a really long time.
Yeah, to like no avail. And like yeah, we'll get into that later when it actually comes up in the story.
Yeah.
I know that if I talk about it now, like I can't help but talk about later stuff.
Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Continue.
Um names. I think the names are important. Like we talked about earlier, like their first names, their civilian names are used almost exclusively. 10 to 1 ratio for Victoria, actually more than that. And then like a 30 to 1 ratio for Amy. Um so, it's pretty there. And they say their mom's name gets dropped by someone else as Brandish, and they both call her Carol. um and obviously we know some people who refer to their parents by first names. Usually there's like some reasons behind that. Like, I think the reason Greg initially started doing it is because when he was a small child, they had a daycare in their home, so it's just like another all the other children called their mom by the first name. So,
I
um,
actually call my parents by their names very often. Not every time, but I do it. So like maybe I shouldn't be so judgy about it.
hmm. Well, I think it's important here because like the book focuses on it so much, and like if it
Yeah.
was just like if there were no if it wasn't considered, then I wouldn't consider it. But because it's so important to the story. Um,
Um oh, Emily says, sorry, M Laffer.
yeah,
Does the author put
doxed.
any thought into the civilian names? Because like Victoria got her name before her powers, obviously, but her name fits her powers really well somehow. Um, yeah,
Yes, her. Yes, definitely.
I was gonna comment because have forgotten to complain about this for a while, but like when I was first reading the book, I was like, why the fuck are all the names like this? Because they're just like such basic, like boring, short names. You know what I mean?
Okay, but okay.
They're all
Uh,
the same type of name. They could,
yeah, but like so many of them are so like packed with like little hidden details. I would say like for Victoria, like a big part of it is like she was named by Carol. Like, that's not not considered. He thought about the fact that like the kind of person Carol is and the fact that she would name her daughter Victoria or her son Victor because
Mhm.
it's the word victory.
They also, Emily, I don't think that we've talked about this a lot, but both of Victoria's parents and like her whole family are all are all also capes, and it is very common, like it's very likely to also be a cape if you're the child of another cape. So like she probably had that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, sorry. I was just thinking of the Carol chapter. It's so fucking good.
Oh my god. She's such
um
a Karen.
I think it's probably her most sympathetic moment in the whole series, though, like when we see from her perspective. And it's not just because we see from her perspective. Like, it's that moment.
It seems like the only moment when she's being good.
Yeah, and there's like never a moment in the series where she's, well, in Worm at least, yeah, where she's like that low.
Mm.
Um, let's see here. Glossary. I feel like there actually are a few things I want to talk about here.
Okay.
So Victoria's powers. She can like fly around, so she's a mover. So that's kind of an obvious one. And she can also project a force field over her skin that allows her to have super strength. So that essentially makes her a brute, both in the defensive and offensive sense. And Yeah, in combat, when you're fighting a team and they've got a brute, you either want to put your brute up against them to stop them or just stay away from them because she is like, to a normal person, can like crush them like a bug. Um, and yeah, you just don't want to get in her reach, and she's really fucking fast too, so she's hard to deal with. Because she doesn't need to like the flight, she doesn't need to do any motion of her body to do it. It's like she just sort of thinks to go in a direction and she starts accelerating in that direction. So she's a full VTOL. She can fly directly up, directly down, however which way. Um and then her emotion power, I would consider to be like a master power because she's changing someone else's uh brain, you know.
Do you want to talk about how Victoria is kind of the first person with like a multi-set of unrelated powers?
Yes. Well, I guess Lung's powers kind of all relate in that he's transforming into a dragon, but
Yeah, he's just a dragon though.
yeah, yeah. Uh so Victoria's powers, yeah, they're pretty disparate. and it like is a long time before you'll like know why exactly, but she is a second generation cape, so her power sort of comes from her like her parents' powers in a way. Um, and the reason Amy has a totally different power that's unrelated is because she's not blood to them, and she didn't get her power from like the family. So,
Yeah.
and it's not that it's the powers aren't passed genetically, but she was raised by different people until she was like 7, and so by then she had sort of imprinted with the power that she has. Despite not triggering until later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Amy's power. Let me think what Amy's power would be. It's like a striker power because she has to touch you to manipulate your biology. She can't affect herself, so it's not a changer. Yeah, it's like a striker power that lets you change other people.
Yeah.
Very good power. Very, very good power.
It's so good.
Like
Like,
S tier power.
she would be like so overpowered if she just did whatever she wanted.
Yeah.
Because they mentioned it in the chapter where Victoria angrily starts telling the man like my sister's fucking scary and she could break you just as easily as she healed you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we didn't get to see that, but Victoria is not lying there. Well,
Yeah.
Amy's power is not to heal people. Her power is to like manipulate biology.
Mm-hmm.
She just uses it to heal people because she's a beta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you love her because she's a beta? Is that why?
Y- That's why.
Okay. Okay, good. Um, God damn it. Um, and also I wanted to, oh God, says Sam. I wanted to just briefly mention, that like, we're gonna be dealing with a lot more teams and stuff in the future. So I'll glossary name the teams as we learn about them. But they weirdly only drop names of individual capes in this section, not any teams, which is bizarre because most of the time capes run in little packs because it's very dangerous to be solo.
Well, Fault Line's crew is just called that, right? Like they don't have a
Yeah,
team
but
name.
they don't even call it that in this chapter. They just mention Fault Line.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they are like officially called Fault Line's crew. But even at this point in the story, there's like 5 of them, so they're a proper team.
Hmm.
Um. Okay, jumping past to the characters. There's Victoria Dallin. My fave. Currently, Glory Girl, and then we got Amy Dallin. Vic's fave.
Yeah.
Panacea. I feel like I'm not sure how much to talk about these characters because they'll be like major characters going forward. Um,
Yeah, I was wondering if we like just to like clear things up for people when we do interlude episodes, if we should like mention on like a scale from 1 to 10 like how relevant they are to the future.
that's a good idea. Yeah, I think we should do that. I would say like I would say these two are like on a scale of 1 to 10 importance to the story. I think they're both like Glory Girl an 8 and Panacea like a 9. I think they're both like really important characters.
Yeah, to the like parahumans story as a whole or just
I
Worm.
just mean Worm.
Okay.
I mean, if it was parahumans as a whole, like Victoria would literally be a 10.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Um, probably Amy would be a 10 as well if it was about the whole thing.
The whole
Um,
thing.
mhm. So yeah, the Victoria and Amy are really important characters who we'll see a lot of. And then I guess we'll talk about their personalities real quick, like anything we can go and say without spoiling. Oh yeah, I can talk about some backstory that's like kind of like mentioned, but not really even in the books. So this is like some of this is direct canon, some of this is like extra in material, but Victoria Victoria got her powers like 2 years ago at that basketball game, and she started like going around as a cape. But there was an encounter against a villain group called the Chorus at the I think it was the same mall. It's whatever the bigger of the two malls is in Brockton Bay, and
Mhm.
uh, Victoria got like badly injured, and then that is what made Amy trigger. And then she was able to heal Victoria. So yeah, uh, Amy wants to save Victoria from getting owned.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. And that might mean that, I mean, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but like people's powers are like work better when they're either like in a similar situation to when they triggered, or like reminded of it somehow or whatever. So like maybe Amy is more powerful somehow when she's around Victoria.
Yeah, yeah, I think it has to do with the mind state they're in. So if like being around Victoria got her to that place, then she would
Hmm.
be better at controlling her power.
Huh.
Greg says, "Who's the better character? Fight, fight, fight." We shan't do that. It would be an unending, unwinnable battle. Um, and then Carol, and so I guess I'll give a bit of backstory too. Victoria's very like always wanted to be a hero, had all these great expectations on her, never had her family's attention, kind of neglected. And then Amy comes into the family and also feels like neglected and unwanted. And then they bond a lot, like just being the person that the other person is with the most. And then uh, with Victoria getting her powers, she finally felt like she was part of the family, and stuff, and like her relatives like respected her and stuff. Um, so that's where a lot of her personality comes from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Carol's crazy. She's a lawyer. She's brandish. She's crazy.
She's crazy.
So for the powers knowledge and world building, this is the first time we get any information about emotion powers. It's just a side power for Victoria here, but and she has kind of a flying brick power package for the most part. But I like the duality of her emotion power, how it makes some people like feel awe and then the others feel terrified. Um, and it's based on how they view her, so that's interesting to me too. Um, but it's again just the powers are really varied. So in this early section, we're getting to see a lot of different things. Um, from Lung to Arms Master to Victoria to Amy. Um, and like all the Undersiders' powers are crazy. Like so, it's just good to be able to see all the different varieties. And yeah, Amy's healing power, it just totally opens like this crazy can of worms of like her being able to affect biology and like change people. Yep, Victoria has an emotion power where she can get near people and they either feel in awe of her. I'm yapping at M in the chat. In awe of her or intimidated by her. So that is part of her power set, M. She has three major powers: the flight, the force field, and the aura of emotions. Um, and do you have anything to say about their powers, Victoria? Or Vic?
I don't think so. Yeah, you're not doing a very good job with that.
I'm fucking terrible at it. It's been like absolutely bad. But I will try and improve because of the fact that in the distant future, we'll be saying Victoria's name a billion times.
A billion. Yeah, exactly. I can go by an alibi. Um,
Yeah, I can call you the Le Pleb.
yeah, that works. I feel like I had something to say and I can't remember, so just keep going.
Okay, if you remember, just interrupt, just jump in. Um, so we're kind of skipping to the Arc 2 section where we're talking about the arc as a whole. It feels like it covers a lot, like way more than the first arc. Uh, M said call her dummy, but I don't. Oh, like calling you an idiot all the time. Uh,
Yeah, pretty rude.
no, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Uh, Rude AF. Yeah, this arc has a lot more conversation, and the first is very like stark and doesn't have much talk in it. And this Taylor like emotionally opens up, and I feel like the tone of the chapters as soon as she's out of the school environment is so different. It's
Hmm.
like a weight is lifted by her not being there, and I think he conveys that super well from like the chapter she's going to the library, and then it just feels like better and better as she's talking to the four undersiders in or the three undersiders in like 2.6 and 7.
Yeah, I think that part of that weight too has got to be like the um removal of like she's not able to follow her routines anymore, which she like declares like she and her dad are ruled by or whatever. So like once she's free of that, she just like kind of gets crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going briefly through the 10 chapters, this one had more than the last, and on the whole, despite having the shortest chapter in the book, it does also have an average chapter length that's longer than the previous arcs, and that'll continue to be true for quite a while until they level out, and then there will be eventually less chapters per arc, but it will be that the arcs are still bigger than these early ones. Anyway, they're more focused later, I think.
Hmm.
But so we get 2.1 was breakfast with Danny. 2.2 is the PHO research in class. 2.3, she's getting bullied in Gladly's class and the Gladly conversation. 2.4, really getting bullied and being neglected by adults. 2.5, impulsive communication chapter. 2.6, the meetup and Taylor doubling down on her plan. 2.7, the walk to the loft and bonding. 2.8, the fight with Rachel, and she storms out. Then Brian uses his power. Then he convinces her not to leave. 2.9 is the aftermath and much more bonding. Then 2.x, we've talked about at length today, new characters and expanding the setting. But yeah, we'll just go through these real quick. There's the really great setup from 2.1. I think most of the point ones are pretty solid throughout the book at like really getting you in the time and place, setting the tone, and everything like that. Do you want to talk a bit about that aspect of things?
Just like the difference in the tones.
Oh yeah, I guess we can follow the outline better. I'm being crazy.
No, you're fine. I just will get lost.
Okay, now we'll go back to how this is formatted because we actually do talk about that a little later down here. I was
Yeah.
getting all rambly.
That's okay. I just want to talk about like the difference in the tones
Yeah,
between the
yeah,
arcs. And like in the future, it's not just arc 1 and 2 that'll have like different tones. Like it's going to be varied a lot. Each is not that they're kind of like their own like standalone story or whatever, but some of them kind of are.
yeah. Like 17 kind of is.
Yeah. So I feel like arc 1 is more depressing, not because like more depressing things are happening, but it's just like she's like so like complacent and like being shoved around like even internally, like she's really inactive. And then in arc 2, like she just has that like defiant nature about her. Um she she just doesn't wanna put up with it. And I feel like she somehow feels better about herself, like, she knows that she doesn't deserve it. Even though in arc 1, she never, like, indicates that, like, this is something that's deserved, it kind of feels like she feels that way.
Yeah, it feels like if nothing else, she thinks it's like fully inevitable and unavoidable.
Yeah.
I agree, and like we had said when we were talking earlier, I think she's internally like a lot more stable and defiant in arc
Mhm.
2, even though she's getting bullied. Like, honestly, like the hallway scene is way worse than the juice scene.
Yeah, and especially because she's being neglected by the adult authority.
Yeah, yeah, like him walking out, seeing it happening, being within like 5 feet of Emma or whatever, and then just walking away.
Hmm.
Yeah, terrible. And then, oh yeah, you had wanted us to mention, and I think this is very true. With each fight she's had against Lung and then against Rachel, like she clearly has growing confidence in herself as she fights, and she really takes pride in these physical combat scenarios. Like she is proud of herself in a way that's not directly articulated, I think, but her demeanor, her um like the tone of the way she views the world. Yeah.
Does mention it when she is feeling unconfident around the Undersiders, and then she's like, "Wait a minute, I don't need to feel like that. I
Oh yeah, yeah.
defeated Lung single-handedly." Um, so like
The
that's the
self
first
pump up.
indication.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think she will think that way later on. Like she just kind of like not coasts, but she does just like ramp up her confidence like throughout the story with
Well,
each victory.
you know how she has like kind of the her costume gets a little more elaborate and she kind of has the veil of bugs and like sometimes she has like the skirt of defensive material. I feel
Mhm.
like I feel like every victory is like just another little patchwork in her like veil of emotional defense and also in her like reputation. Like cuz her
Yeah.
reputation's just bonkers.
Yeah.
Um I mean, I I think this meme is fine to say, not too spoilery. But I had said to Kevin the other day a meme which was um, Taylor threw a grenade and killed 50 people. Then it went off.
Taylor's insane.
Yeah,
She probably wouldn't kill 50 people.
probably wouldn't.
Probably. It depends on who it was. Um,
Um,
okay.
her reputation isn't that she captured Lung. Actually, most people don't know that at the start of the story because of Arms Master. But like and her reputation in public is a little weirder. It's like at some points well known what she's done and other points not, but it's her reputation with other capes where like they actually kind of know what's been happening, where they're just like horrified by her.
Yeah, there's gonna be like a scene later on where somebody mentions that they want to fight a threat with like really low or mid-level capes, and she was like, "Oh, I fit into that, right?" And they all just kind of look at her.
Yeah, exactly. They're like what are you talking
You're
about?
like, I wouldn't say that. She's very, as like confident as she gets, like she still really undersells herself.
Well, no, I don't think that she undersells herself intentionally. I think that she never
No.
sees herself.
Yeah,
Throughout the whole story, I think she never really sees herself.
I agree.
Um, but let's see here. Oh yeah, the writing is improving a lot. I think the dialogue is much better than in Arc One, which we've talked about already. I don't know if we need to go over that too much more now, but I wanted to talk about the sort of timing between the arcs. One and two are sort of an exception in that there's a couple days skip in Arc One that's kind of jarring, like just in the third chapter. But most of the time it's more like Arc 2 where it's kind of all one thing, like scene to scene to scene. It's all one day. There's no major time skips, and then at the start of the next arc, it's going to be like the next day. So like not that much time has passed, but it's still like for her to go to sleep and have time pass, it becomes another arc. Um, I'm trying to think of the later stuff because they do really expand out in time since they just are much longer. but it's always more clear, like the end of arc is like the end of, how would you describe it? I guess I'm stumbling over my words.
Um, I don't know. I'm so bad at this stuff because I didn't pay a lot of attention to like where like the actual contents like that are associated with each arc number. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Gotcha. Um yeah, I don't know. I think they did a better job later at denoting like the different arcs and then having like the time skips be like very clear, unless it's in like a specific arc where like a lot of time is passing. Like there are a few like that where like there'll be a day between each chapter or something or even longer. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that does happen.
But then pretty much the whole arc will be like that. I
Yeah.
think he does a good job at like keeping the tones consistent so you kind of don't get super thrown off.
Yeah, I agree. Um I like this arc having a like a definite turning point at 2.6 where it goes from a story that's mostly only Taylor to having like consistent other characters.
Mhm.
And there'll be chapters where she's solo, throughout the book, but the percentage of chapters where she's alone is so much less than, what we've had up to now. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't think we could spend that much time with Taylor alone.
yeah, be a bit much. Um so this book has like piles and piles and loads of characters. Just a whole heap of them. And they'll be introduced and like uh they'll ramp up how many characters there are and they'll just keep bringing back the old characters. They will drop characters or like, I mean, spoilies, characters will die or whatever, but um like usually it will make sense what a character is doing. They won't just be like gone. Some characters leave the city when like their turf is like no longer theirs and stuff like that. So it's always like logical within the setting why they're doing a thing or their character motivations from their perspective make sense. So I'm glad for that. It's not just like they drop off the map for no reason.
Mhm.
M says I definitely like when she's interacting with people more. Yeah. Um And then most of the name drops are paid off with characters later, although Wildbow does like to mix in things that like aren't there later, like we never hear anything about Stain. And I don't think that's because it's forgotten. I think he wants to imply that the world is larger than what we see, despite the fact that we see a lot.
Yeah, I like that. I think it just makes it look bigger and feel less contrived.
Yeah, because I feel in a lot of settings, like that's one of the strengths of this story. Once you get the ball rolling, like, this far or maybe arc three onward, where like it feels like a very real place with like it like sort of makes sense as a world. Like you get how things got there. I feel when I watch a DC comic like or a DC, because I almost only watched the like animated films over the years that they've had for like Justice League, but I feel like
Mhm.
that world feels very empty. You'll see some individual civilians that need to be saved by heroes and stuff, but it doesn't feel like a living, breathing world that's filled in. It's just like a cityscape of buildings in a lot of scenes,
Yeah,
and I don't feel that way about this story. Um, Obviously.
obviously.
Um, let's see here. Sorry, there's the differing styles of the interludes, and we start to feel that here because Danny, while his style is different from Taylor's style, it's close enough that we're not sure. It feels like the Taylor alone style more than it does a standard Taylor chapter. But then this feels like totally different from those, I think. Um,
Yeah, I think maybe he could have like slowed his roll with that. Like do a Danny chapter and then do something that's like a little bit further from Danny instead of jumping right into Victoria's perspective, which has obviously felt very different.
Right. I think when he was starting the story, he thought it would be shorter.
Mm,
Um,
that
and
makes sense.
because there's like there was a point where, totally off topic, but I think it's interesting. There was a point later in the story where basically it would have only been like 25 arcs, and he would have cut out a huge chunk, and I think it would have like majorly damaged the story. But he was able to do what he wanted and expand it because he had enough like Patreon support. He was able to just continue writing full time and like become a full time writer again. So, or maybe that was the first time. I say again. Um, but become a full time writer. And then because of that, he was able to expand the story. And I think we gained a lot with the material that was added.
Yeah, and that's great for him too. It makes me happy that he doesn't have to do like a normal job along with this.
That'd be like impossible. Like
I know.
with the length of the chapters now, and he's still doing two a week. It just yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but the book kind of teaches you how to read it. The arcs have a general structure. They start with a chapter that establishes the setting, tone, and the themes for that arc. And then, generally, within the first three chapters, stakes and the major conflict of the arc are set up. And then the middle of the arcs usually have a lot of dialogue, and then character beats and exposition before the rising action starts. And then once the main conflict has begun in earnest, it usually builds to a climax. Then there's a extra chapter at the end, a denouement, if you will, to release the tension, and then add an interlude to the end, and that's how you got the early arcs. So, yeah, do you want to talk about that general flow of how they go?
Oh, okay.
I mean, you don't
I
have to,
like I
but
said, I'm not very good at this, so I'll let you take point on that.
okay. Yeah. So we'll sort of get used to the structure of these, and it'll be like weirder because we're reading it so slow. I mean, I know that we're reading it at basically the pace it came out, but much slower than you would if you were just like listening to the audiobook or directly reading it. So sometimes it'll be hard to see like the way it is, but each one is like its own little book in a very good way of like um it's a start to finish story most of the time as far as I'm concerned. Like maybe they'll need two arcs to do something major, but even within that, each arc is still a contained story.
Yeah, I agree. I really like that about this. I can't remember who said it. Was probably Matt or Scott or whatever, but after they read the first arc, they were like, this could have just been its own thing and it would have been awesome on its own.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I think the first arc could be like a very tiny short story and just its own uh little paperback.
Hmm.
Um but let's see here. I think that's about all for that. I think we're going to jump into
Our
the
activity?
our activity. Yours is going to be a lot. Okay, so mine has no visual component and is sillier than yours, I think. Well, they're both probably pretty silly because I haven't seen
They're both.
yours, but
It's probably silly.
but I don't know if you want to go first. Oh shit, I was supposed to open up the Delia Pop, right?
That's okay. And then can you share your screen with me so I can follow along just in the Discord?
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I know how to do that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Um, so can I presenter view? Okay, so I can put this as okay. I don't think it's gonna auto advance. I think I have to advance it, which is good because that's what I want, but I'm not.
Yeah. It shouldn't go on its own. It should be click to play.
Okay, cool. So we'll just move this into the thing. Um, well, it's just gonna. It's not ideal.
No,
Um,
it's good.
there we go.
So our activity this week, you know when you're in elementary school and they make you, you called it something else, something that was not the word that I used.
what we're doing to their names is an initialization, but that's
Oh,
not
okay.
super important. I just need to grab. Where's that stupid window?
So we wanted to describe them with their names, and I did do a visual component. I made them into like they did it themselves, little posters. Um and like my descriptor words are not necessarily how they would describe themselves. It's kind of like a combo of like how other people would describe them and like also how they would have done this project. That's what I was going for. So this is Brian.
There we go. So I think I have my screen shared. Do you know?
Yeah, perfect. And you can go ahead and click. We'll get to see the first descriptor.
Yeah, I gotta get the presenter. There we go.
Brian is
Boyish.
for boyish. Because of his boyish grin.
Of course, of course.
That obviously comes from Taylor. Um, I don't have much to say about that. You can click. Brian is also R for rational. Um,
Mm. Very
Taylor
good.
sees him as like the only rational person around until he disagrees with her, and then she thinks he's highly irrational. Um, but I agree. I think that he does like give off the vibe of somebody who at least thinks of themselves as really rational and logical.
I think he mostly
Um,
is too.
he mostly is too. He like can keep his cool pretty well, but sometimes he's a little silly. You can click on. Brian is independent. No need to explain that. He just kind
Oh,
of does his own thing. He got powers and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna become a villain for no reason."
yeah. Easy
He's athletic.
cash.
That's from Taylor. She likes his arms.
She
Um,
she really likes his arms.
she really likes his arms. I actually like do think that's kind of like one of he doesn't have a lot of personality traits, and so I would describe him as athletic because he he seems to to like it a lot, and like his character kind of
He also
I'm not
like
sure how to
he actively pursues that stuff. He's not interested in like becoming a martial artist for one martial art, but he wants to
Mhm.
learn a bunch of like different ones, and like it makes me think of how uh like I know some people who are like general interest into sports and they'll play all these little sports leagues for different like variations on games and stuff cuz to them
Mhm.
it's not about the game. They're not obsessed with the game. It's about like the sport and the team like the sportsmanship and the team and the athleticism and like the fact that they're actually outside running around. Like
Yeah.
I've known people like that all my life and yeah, I mean, that shit's fun, so I get it.
Yeah, and Brian is one of them. You can click. This is the most important one. N for normal. Bri-
What a
Brian
normie.
Brian is one of the most normal capes that we will ever meet. I in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that like Golem and Weld are like are also normal. But like I really can't think of a lot of others off the top of my head. Taylor just loves normies. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
He's really well adjusted for a cape. He's chill. Yeah, exactly, Emily.
Going on
Uh,
or
you can go on. This is Lisa.
Lisa.
She put a little bit more pizzazz into
She put a
hers.
little B to show that she's supporting Taylor too.
Yeah, that's what the B is. It's because she's got a Taylor fixation. Um, a little cat because she's cool, and then the tattletale eye in the corner watching everyone.
Yeah.
You can click. Lisa is a liar. She she's constantly lying to herself and to everybody around her, um, including the ones that she loves. And I did want to mention the groovy background is like representative of her terrible fashion taste.
Awesome.
She's always wearing shit like this.
Yeah. I feel like if she was in the 90s, she'd be like a horse and rainbow girl, like somehow.
Yeah. She's like kind of groovy, um, or something. She's like boho. She's got like a weird sense of fashion. We can move on. I didn't roast her fashion taste in the
Actual letters.
presentation.
Yeah.
Lisa is an instigator.
Yes.
She she likes to cause problems. This is what I mean. Like, this is how I feel like she would agree with these descriptors,
Yeah,
and this is
these are
also how
self
other people,
descriptions.
and this is also how other people would describe her. um, you can go ahead and click. And she's a smartass.
Good.
Lying, instigating smartass.
Awesome.
Good. This is
Wow.
Taylor's.
What a nerd.
I
What a
know.
fucking nerd.
Hers is really like boring and structured. Because she would put so much work into this project. Go ahead and click.
Oh, yes, yes.
This is some of these descriptors. I was like, maybe like the new readers, which is basically just Emily, will like not like understand where these are coming from.
But Taylor's a
Just because,
psycho. I love her.
yeah, Taylor's a psycho, so I really like honed in on her like psycho self. She's very, very tactical, great in battle. You can click. She's administrative.
Oh my god, I'm glad you used the A for that.
um because she's administrating her bug, she's administrating her team. She's always directing and telling everyone what to do.
She's a real administrator,
Yeah,
as far
she's a
as
real
characters go.
administrator. You can click. She's yieldless.
Yieldless!
Taylor will never yield. um
It also
Never
feels
back down.
like that kind of thing that Taylor would come up with where she's like, the words need to be big.
Yeah. They need to be big, they need to be smart. And I put loyal because she's kind of loyal, but
I,
her besties would all describe her as that.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Organized. Oh, fuck
She's
yeah.
organized. Yeah. No explanation there. She had the 200-page notebook.
Yeah.
And then the R is for risky.
Yeah.
Taylor loves risk.
Well, I forget. I think it was on like the Doof podcast about this. We've got Worm, but they were saying like she likes to take any problem and take a big risk that might make the problem worse,
Yeah.
to try and solve her problem. And sometimes it just digs her a hole.
Yeah. She's always be escalating, as we say.
Yeah.
The ABCs of Taylor. Okay. This is Alex.
Awesome.
He just did it on some cardboard with like Sharpie, and he found this little Space Invader sticker.
Awesome. I like how he and Lisa didn't plan theirs out, so both of them have these like totally cringe like letters that jumble. Like I would always do that as a kid because I was like so fucking bad at like spacing stuff out, and I have a writing problem, so.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's very him.
Emily doesn't like the cardboard. He did his best, okay? He didn't own any paper. Alec is awesome. You can click. Alec is lazy.
That's a good self-assessment, I'd say.
Yeah, and he just hears it from other people, so he was like, "Yeah, I'll put that."
Yeah.
Okay, next. Edgy. Alec is like a huge edgelord. We haven't really seen much of that yet, but oh boy.
Yeah, he
some of his
really
humor.
is. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Flippin' Alec.
Okay, last. C for cool. He's awesome and cool.
Mm-hmm. Awesome and cool.
Okay, so this was the hard one. Because I didn't want to put Rachel on blast for being illiterate, because she is. So this is my vision. It's obviously fridge magnets.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not no spoilies, but this is in her lair, and so these are just gonna be some dog names. So Rolo, that's her first dog. She loves him. Angelica,
Coco.
Coco. They got confused. Hellhound. There's there's no dog named Hellhound. There's also no dog that starts with E. So you know what? She and her gang tried their best.
They really did their best.
They really did their best. Yeah, I was like, I was so unsure what I was gonna do for this, and then I was like, you know what? The R and the A both have names, and I just went off from there. Do you like the dog mom sticker?
Yeah, the chat loves it.
Yeah.
I see that that's the end of our slides.
Yeah,
Very,
that's
very
all I
good.
did. I William did more than I did, right?
That's actually false. I
Oh,
did only 4.
oh, cool. So
Because
you just did the rest of the characters?
yeah, I just did the other ones.
Oh, perfect.
So Vic did the
Undersiders.
Undersiders and Taylor. Well, the Undersiders.
Yeah.
And I did Armsmaster, Lung, Glory Girl, and Panacea. And mine are very silly.
Oh, I'm
Imagine that
excited.
these characters are like edgy teens. So it's the teen version of Lung and Armsmaster doing these. It's very much from each of them, I think. So starting off with Armsmaster, artificial, robotic, modular soldier, mechanized, armored, super technological, efficient recluse.
Oh my god. That's really funny.
I'm gonna paste that in the chat. It's stupid.
That's exactly.
Oh no, it doesn't have my. Does it have my little
Too bad he didn't have an E for
spacers?
efficient.
God damn it! I tried to do a shift enter and it just whatever.
I was unsure if you were going to do the full arms master because that's so much, or if you were gonna dox him.
No, I'm just gonna fully. Here we go. I can. There we go. I can put it on screen.
Oh, beautiful.
So yes, and then we've got Lung. He made his another edgy teen, lone, undying, notorious giant. And then we've got Victoria made hers for Glory Girl. Good,
Mhm.
loyal, outstanding,
Oh my
reliable,
god.
youthful, generous, intelligent, radiant leader.
She needs to calm the fuck down. That's like literally how I would write mine. I was wondering if you would do Victoria or Glory Girl because that's like the view is always victorious because what else was it gonna be?
I was worried that I was going to put you on blast and have picked a lot of the same words that you picked as a kid.
Yeah, probably victorious, independent, charming, tactical.
That's the most important aspect when you're a kid, being tactical.
Yeah.
And then we've got Panacea, peaceful, aware, nervous, adopted, clumsy, earnest, anesthesiologist.
Oh my god, why would you call her out for being adopted?
I'm sorry. The list of words I was looking at that had like A, and I shotgun these out in the minutes between us listening to the audiobook and now. That's
Yeah.
the real truth. Um so the words for A were like, I don't know. They didn't
Adopted,
they
arthritic.
No, they didn't fit her, and they felt because she has like a really specific character, I think. Um
Hmm.
and it was too they were Victoria words, not Amy words.
Oh, of course. Yeah, they're like way too positive.
Yeah, exactly.
You get it.
So
Okay.
then I was going to go ahead and do the audience participation. Several people had um they had answered on the Discord, so I wanted to read out their answers. Ba, 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 ba. Yes, audience participation. So, the question was, and this is still for the audience who's here in the audience to answer if they so choose. What is the scariest power you can come up with? Remember that the upper limit on scary in this setting is pretty high. And then I had the barfing emoji. Um, that's the question. Part of it is the barf. Uh, and then our friend online, Scarlett, had said in the Discord, this is going to sound simple, but the scariest power I could think of is being able to make others hallucinate. So in theory, you could make them imagine anything. Bonus points if you know your victim, since you know what scares them. Dangerously, you could make them think they're just walking in the city, but really they're walking near a cliff and they just walk off thinking there was a pavement below them. You could get them, you could get pretty creative with it, but I feel, but I feel like a psycho, so I'll stop with that. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Pretty good. It's also not that not to the same extent, but it's kind of similar to my my self inserts power, so now it makes me nervous.
That's part of what makes it like kind of funny to me. And also
Yeah.
like I can name two different powers, I think. One that's really like close to that, which is the Nyx power where she can project images made of smoke and
Hmm.
then like you could project an image of like the land going past a cliff or like just slightly more cliff so it looks really like similar to how it looked before and then they just fall off the last like 5 feet or whatever. But then
Hmm.
when the smoke gets disrupted, it becomes poisonous gas also. So it's just like double fucked.
Oh my
Um,
god.
I like that power. It's pretty cool. Um, and then Scarlet acknowledged that that was basically Mysterio from No Way Home or Far From Home, which I thought was funny. And then my other friend Janice had brought up the idea of like finding the character Kilgrave from Jessica Jones really scary, and I was like, yeah, there's basically a guy like that in Worm,
Nice.
because Valfor,
Hmm.
yeah. And then in the chat, M says, I was going to say like a rot power that allows you to make any organic matter rot in seconds. Um, yeah, that's pretty spooky. There's stuff like that in Ward too.
Yeah, the problem with this prompt is that
There's so many scary powers already.
yeah, there's already powers that are scarier than anything I could think of. Like literally Bonesaw has the scariest power. Like that's it. That's the end of it.
Well, it's hard to say. I think Grey Boy's like personally, I think Grey Boy is scarier than Bonesaw, and that's like just because he sets the bar so high.
I think that Grey Boy, while Grey Boys is scary, I can't like my mortal brain can't fathom like the effects of it.
Gotcha. Where it's much
So
easier with the
it's much
visceral, like
easier with
horrifying Bonesaw.
yeah. And I don't know if it's spoilies to talk about Bonesaw. Bonesaw is like if Panacea did just do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. It's like if Panacea was going full ham.
Yeah, if Panacea wanted to give that guy erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, but she'd find a
Bonesaw
much
would have
more
just
creative way to do it.
yeah, Bonesaw would have just like used fused two human beings together
Yeah.
by their penis. Oh,
Um,
Bonesaw.
Greg mentions thought about this a lot, and I was thinking about. I think it's actually optics. She's a dystopia just waiting to happen. She's a dystopia in one person.
No.
um, and then Bonesaw and Panacea both made my short list. I agree. I agree, Greg. Although I think we did want to try and come up with like, and I didn't come up with one because my brain just jumps to all the existing powers. Unfortunately, although I didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about the prompt, and I kind of wish I had, but I couldn't come up with one in the time that I thought about it. Um,
I'll come up with one. This is one that this is my fear that Emily's been spreading rumors about, and it's that gravity will flip upside down. So we'll just do a power where you can make like a column where gravity flips upside down, and you
but
could
that's
just
a
fling
guy.
people. Oh, okay. Who is it?
That's Topsy. Taylor
Oh,
fights
yeah,
him.
Topsy does do that, and he's not very scary.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think he'd be more scary if Taylor wasn't so well equipped. She literally has like a fucking jetpack.
Yeah, that's true. She was like ready for that situation.
She's just like,
And
this
then she was
idiot.
being mean at everybody else for for being upset that they kept getting flung around.
Yeah, she like puts she uses her brain to control the bugs to put the jetpack on somebody else, and she's like flinging them around with the controls, and she's like, "Why are they so upset that I'm flinging them around in the sky?" So
While
stupid.
it's really easy to think of new powers, it is very difficult to like try to outdo a specific power.
Yeah. Greg says, I mean, I thought of some things, but they've always ended having a close approximation in parahumans. Yeah, the
Yeah.
powers in parahumans are so like varied. There's so many of them. Like especially when you go from just counting Worm to like including Ward as well. There's just so many powers. Um, like I thought about the Mind Sword from Fred Saberhagen's Book of Swords series, but that boils down to being really similar to Goddess. Yeah, yeah, it actually, I agree. From when you told me about what the Mind Sword is, because you were telling me the different swords from that series at one point. Um, so there's a power for that. Oh, shit, I just got warning. Please check the video resolution. Okay, thank God. It's just telling me that my resolution recording is crap, and I'm like, I don't care about that.
Did you know your screen sucks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was telling me that it dropped the recording or something, and I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Um, I think that is all for that. We need to think of an audience participation question. Let's all brainstorm real fast.
Okay.
Brisbane's, uh,
Damn, what happens next chapter? Hold on.
so 3.1 and 3.2, uh, hmm,
Let me just skim it real quick.
okay.
Um Audience question, smash or pass on the underside. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
God! Smash or pass
Um
on the Protectorate members. They're
on the
adults.
protectorate, adult members. Listen, they'll be adults by the end of the book. We can age
Um,
them up.
yeah, we'll age them up. They're whatever your age is. So it's that, goes to that.
I can't think of anything. I think this is Sigma's job, honestly. This
Yeah,
is what he
Sigma
contributes.
Jargon, you're supposed to be the grand master of all things brainy and smarts.
Brainy and smarts.
Um, Let me think. Okay, so we could do just. Uh, do you think it would be beneficial for Taylor to try and get herself to go back to school and like work on finishing out the school year, or do you think that that's not worth her trouble? That's in
That's
it.
good.
I think that's something people can answer even if they know the story, because you can just
Mhm.
put yourself in the perspective of just Taylor knowing what she knows now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our question, and I'll post that on the Discord. I'm going to work on getting that audiobook chapter posted to the YouTube. I just need to decide. We're finalizing a decision on like if we're gonna have a little watermark or just the chapter image. Not sure yet. So yep, yep. But
Yep,
I'll try
yep.
and have that out tomorrow or today. And then we'll just keep. I'm not sure what we'll do with the extra supplementary material if we'll like ever post. I don't know. I guess people can just watch these YouTube videos and see this stuff. That's good enough.
Yeah. That's good.
All right. Well, let me see the links real quick. So, yes, as always, you can support the actual author of the work, Wildbow, at his Patreon. He still writes a current story called Pale that's coming out week by week. The full so that's patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. And then there is a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. And then our Discord server link can be found in the description as well. I don't think we have any other stuff to say. I don't have any guests lined up in the near future, but I'm trying to work on that. And then Victoria's going to be back for the end of Arc 3, of course. Do you have any parting thoughts, Victoria or Vic?
Nope. I wasn't sure if I don't think anyone here has Instagram, but if you want to follow my art Instagram, where I do post the chapter art as well, you can. It's at plebeian art. That's Plebeeian. That's all I got.
Cool, cool. Well, I will see you all next week. It'll be the same time as normal. We'll be doing chapter 3.1 and 3.2. We're gonna go back to 2 chapters a week. The times when it's not two chapters are just gonna be when it sort of conflicts with the structure of the book. We don't want to mix 2 arcs together. We want to go over the arc by itself. Like for this arc, there'll be 6 episodes of 2 chapters a pop, and then one of these episodes with an interlude and an end of arc with me and Vic. So there's not going to be like the previous episode that was just 1 chapter and nothing else. But they'll happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys are great. I need to write outros and intros to this, so I'm not so lame. But thank you guys. Bye bye.
Anyways, bye.